Have you ever wondered how a graceful, elegant woman could make the most powerful men, those who are used to controlling everything, suddenly let go of it all? No knives. No guns. No threats. Just a warm glass of herbal wine. A gentle smile. A soft voice whispering, "You're safe with me. Just relax." And then, they obey. They willingly open their safes. Type in their bank passwords with their own hands. Sign documents transferring millions of dollars. They wake up with empty wallets, blurred memories, and a strange red lipstick mark on their necks, like the seal of a Victorian-era curse. Blackwood Hollow, Massachusetts. A small, picturesque town of antique houses, blazing autumn leaves, and a history of witchcraft that has never truly slept. They call her the Seductive Witch, a spirit returned from the 19th century, using dark hypnosis to manipulate the minds of wealthy men. But private investigator Sarah Blackwell knows the truth. This isn't a demon. This is a very real woman, armed with a deadly drug formula from the past and a deep, simmering resentment waiting to explode. When the most powerful men in town begin to fall into deep sleep, and never wake up the same again, Sarah is forced to confront the most terrifying question of all. Does the line between hypnosis and manipulation, between consent and coercion, truly exist? The Seductive Witch of Blackwood Hollow. A psychological horror story inspired by real cases of mental manipulation, where greed, vulnerability, and dark intelligence blend into a kind of magic more terrifying than any curse. Would you dare accept a drink from a stranger, after hearing this story? Turn on the lights. Lock the doors. And step with me into the darkness of Blackwood Hollow. Because once you've heard it, you'll never look at a perfect smile the same way again. Blackwood Hollow is not a place people stumble upon by accident. It lies hidden among the dark valleys of Massachusetts, where a single winding road snakes through ancient maple forests and moss-covered cliffs, nearly 3 hours from Boston. On maps, the town's name is printed in small type, as if it, too, wishes to be forgotten. The population is just over 4,000. By day, Blackwood Hollow wears the calm face of a historic tourist town, Victorian wooden houses painted gray, pale blue, or deep red, antique cafes with brass signs, horse-drawn carriages for visitors who want to experience the past. But when the sun sets, the town becomes something else, quiet to the point of unease. An old cemetery sits on the northern hill, its headstones worn smooth by time, bearing names from the colonial era. Some have become local legends, women accused of quackery, men who died under strange circumstances, unexplained disappearances dating back to the late 19th century. People whisper about the Seductive Witch. According to legend, she appeared during the Victorian era. A woman so beautiful that no one remembers her face, only how it felt to be near her, a lightness in the head, a slowing heartbeat, a dissolving will. She used hypnosis, herbal wine, and homemade potions brewed from deep forest plants to make wealthy men obey, signing over property and fortunes before waking up dazed, ruined, and too ashamed to speak. There were no bodies. No proof. And so, over generations, the story was relegated to tourist folklore, something to sell museum tickets and witch-themed souvenirs. Until that autumn. Alexander Thorne was found just before dawn beside Blackwater Lake, a pitch-black body of water deep in the forest, where fog clings thick even at midday. A jogger spotted him stumbling along the shore, barefoot, his expensive coat soaked in mud. His eyes were wide open, yet empty, as if he were staring straight through the world. "Are you okay?" the jogger asked. Alexander turned slowly. It took several seconds before his lips moved. "She's waiting for me," he whispered. Then he collapsed. Alexander Thorne, 58, a real estate investor from New York, owner of a multimillion-dollar vacation estate on the outskirts of Blackwood Hollow. At the town hospital, police discovered that his wallet, burner phone, and gold Patek Philippe watch were missing. More importantly, so was his memory. Blood and urine tests puzzled the doctors. No dangerous alcohol levels. No cocaine. No opioids. Yet Alexander's brain showed signs of prolonged deep sedation, something that should only occur in an operating room. There's benzodiazepine, the chief physician told Police Chief Harlan Graves, but not enough to cause this. The rest is unusual. The samples were sent to a larger lab. When Alexander fully regained consciousness, Harlan sat by his hospital bed. He was 55, broad-shouldered, his silver beard neatly trimmed, eyes long accustomed to humanity's darker sides. "Do you remember anything?" Harlan asked. Alexander stared at the ceiling, sweat beading at his temples. "She. Who? Beautiful. Beautiful like a goddess in an old painting." His voice trembled. "She offered me a drink. Her voice was so gentle. She told me to relax. That I was safe." Harlan took notes. "And then?" Alexander shut his eyes, his face twisting. "I did everything she told me. Opened the safe. Gave her the passwords. Signed papers. I knew it was wrong, but I couldn't stop." Harlan leaned closer and noticed a faint red lipstick mark on Alexander's neck. Not lips. A circle crossed by 3 diagonal lines, a symbol Harlan had seen once before, long ago, in a dusty old case file. He straightened, a chill running down his spine. "Not an old trick," he muttered. "Not at all." Rumors spread faster than any official statement. People began avoiding bars at night. Wives checked their husbands' phones more often. The church held prayer meetings against the Victorian curse. The town museum rehung an old poster about 19th-century hypnosis scams, and visitor numbers surged. And in Chicago, Sarah Blackwell received the call she had feared for 10 years. "Sarah," Mia Reynolds said urgently over the phone. "Come back. It's just like what happened to your uncle. The witch is back." Sarah stood frozen in her office, staring down at the street below. She had sworn never to return to Blackwood Hollow. Never to the place that had turned her uncle, a strong, clear-minded man, into a drug-addicted shell who died alone. But memory would not leave her alone. 3 hours later, Sarah was driving through misting rain. Yellow maple leaves plastered the road, crushed beneath her tires like dried blood. Victorian houses loomed through the fog, silent, watching her return. Sarah did not know that the figure the town called the Seductive which had never truly vanished. She had only learned how to evolve. The Blackwood Hollow police station was just as she remembered it, an old red brick building next to the History Museum, the air thick with the scent of damp paper and burnt coffee permeating every wall. Harlan Graves stood up when Sarah walked in. "Thank you for coming," he said, getting straight to the point. "Mia said you understand psychological manipulation tricks." Sarah set her bag down, her eyes already scanning the bulletin board covered in victim photos. "I understand because I've seen how they kill people." Harlan handed her the Alexander Thorne file. $200,000 transferred, he said. Right after that night. Anonymous account. Messages arranging a meeting with a beautiful local, for a relaxing hypnosis experience. Mia Reynolds pushed a bag of evidence toward Sarah. Inside was a small glass vial, still carrying a faint herbal scent. GHB, Mia said. Mixed with datura extract. The kind of thing people used in the 19th century to open the mind. Sarah closed her eyes for a second. Not witchcraft, she said. An extremely clever con artist. Less than 2 days later, the second case broke. Benjamin Croft, 45, CEO of a tech company from Silicon Valley, was found in his hotel room. Comatose. Safe cracked open. $150,000 gone. When he woke, Benjamin said the exact same things Alexander had said. The sweet voice. The wine. The feeling of absolute safety. Sarah looked at him and knew one thing for certain, the perpetrator was getting bolder. She searched the town's old records. In 1890, a name surfaced, Victoria Hale, a female quack doctor suspected of using chloroform and hypnosis to scam wealthy men, then vanishing without a trace. A descendant? Evelyn Hale. 45 years old. Owner of Victorian Remedies. Sarah walked into the shop that afternoon. The air was thick with herbs and old wood. Evelyn Hale stood behind the counter, elegant, hair pinned up, eyes sharp yet warm. "Miss Sarah Blackwell," Evelyn smiled. "I've heard of you." She poured herbal wine and pushed it toward Sarah. Sarah didn't touch it. "I hear you're very good at hypnosis." Evelyn tilted her head. "I only help people forget their pain," she said softly. Sarah looked at her, and in that moment, she had a feeling, very faint, that if she blinked, everything could slip out of control. Sarah returned and didn't sleep all that night. In her hotel room overlooking Blackwood Hollow's Main Street, she spread the files across the bed: Alexander Thorne, Benjamin Croft, bank statements, crime scene photos, and the preliminary chemical analyses Mia had brought. 3 men. 3 different backgrounds. But one thing in common: all wealthy, all owning or planning to invest in land around the town. Sarah circled the real estate locations on the map. A strip running along Blackwater Lake, the Western Forest, and the Northern Ancient Hill, all in an area rumored for high-end tourism redevelopment. "Not random," she muttered. The next morning, the lab sent more detailed results. Sarah stood at the stainless steel table, reading line by line. Gamma hydroxybutyrate, GHB low dose, not enough for coma alone. Benzodiazepine, frighteningly precise dose, reducing anxiety, increasing compliance. Deuterostromonium extract, alkaloids causing hallucinations, used in folk medicine and 19th century hypnosis rituals. "She knows exactly what she's doing," Sarah told Mia. "Not just to knock them out. To make them obey." Before they could catch their breath, the third case happened. Jonathan Pike, the local bank director, a man everyone thought untouchable. Found in his car on a forest road. No signs of struggle. No violent theft. But his company account had been drained of $300,000 through 3 electronic signatures, confirmed by his own hand. Jonathan woke in the hospital, trembling. "She told me to trust her," he told Sarah, voice hoarse. "She said money was just an illusion. That I would be freed." Sarah looked at him, a chill running down her spine. This was no longer simple fraud. This was temporary brainwashing. 3 cases. 3 victims. One name kept surfacing in her mind: Evelyn Hale. Sarah presented to Harlan and the district prosecutor. "We need a search warrant for Victorian Remedies." That afternoon, they entered Evelyn's shop. The space still smelled of herbs. On the shelves were old leather-bound books: Mesmeric Influence, Victorian Hypnosis, The Will and the Sleeping Mind. In the back room, police found small glass vials with handwritten labels in brown ink. Evelyn sat across from Sarah in the interrogation room, back straight, hands lightly clasped. "I'm a therapist," she said calmly. "Some clients come to me when they're weak. If they go too far, that's not my fault." 3 wealthy men lost money after meeting you," Sarah replied. Evelyn smiled faintly. "Rich men often lose money. Not enough evidence." Evelyn was released. That night, Sarah received a text from an unknown number. "You're looking at the right person. But not deep enough. Don't drink anything she offers." The message haunted Sarah. She knew the sender wasn't random. Someone was watching Evelyn from the inside. 2 days later, the 4th case exploded. Marcus Feldman, a hedge fund manager from New York, in Blackwood Hollow for rest and investment scouting. He lost $500,000 in one night. No hospital. No immediate police report. Feldman was ashamed, tried to hide it until it was too late. Sarah decided to set a trap. She sat in the old bar near the square, posing as a lonely woman, drinking mineral water. Golden light reflected off old mirrors. Evelyn Hale walked in. She wasn't hurried. Not obvious hunting. Just sat near Feldman, leaning in just enough, voice low and warm. Sarah watched Evelyn's hand lightly touch his wrist, right as the server brought the wine. 10 minutes later, Feldman laughed louder. Slower. His eyes glazed over. Sarah followed. Evelyn drove to an old Victorian house on the forest edge, a house not in official records. Sarah slipped in the back. In the basement, she found a hidden lab, digital scales, distillation equipment, notebooks of formulas, blending modern science with 19th-century methods. And then Sarah saw Lydia. 28 years old. Cold eyes. The girl stood at the mixing table, not looking up. "Who are you?" Sarah asked. Lydia smiled faintly. "The one fixing what this society got wrong." Sarah understood immediately. This wasn't just about money. This was class resentment. The fifth case nearly became a tragedy. The victim overdosed. Heart stopped for 30 seconds before revival. The town erupted. Witch. Burn her house. Arrest them all. Sarah confronted Evelyn in the Victorian house. "It's over," Sarah said. "You're killing people." Evelyn looked at her, eyes no longer gentle. "You think I'm robbing them?" she asked. "I'm just making them reveal who they really are." Greed was always there. An arrest warrant was issued. But Evelyn vanished into the night. The autumn forest blazed red. Dry leaves crunched underfoot. Evelyn left sedative traps. Mia inhaled one, became dizzy, nearly fell into the lake. Sarah pulled her up, heart pounding. Finally, Sarah found Evelyn in the old house from the Victorian era, where it all began. Evelyn poured wine, placed it in front of Sarah. "You can't escape hypnosis," she said softly. "No one can." Sarah lifted the glass, then poured it on the ground. "I know how to resist," she replied. The struggle was short, fierce. Evelyn was subdued. Lydia cried as she was cuffed. "We were just taking back," she said. "They didn't deserve it." Sarah looked at the two women, a Victorian legacy in modern clothing, and knew the monster wasn't born from magic, but from humans. The trial took place on a winter morning, when Blackwood Hollow was covered in a thin layer of snow like ash. The small courtroom was packed. Not just reporters from Boston and New York, but townspeople, familiar faces who had once greeted Evelyn Hale on the street, bought her herbal teas, believed she was just a polite woman living nostalgically. Evelyn sat at the defendant's table, back straight, silver hair pinned neatly as always. No handcuffs. No bowed head. She looked more like a retired professor than someone charged with multiple counts of fraud, poisoning, and serious injury. Sarah sat in the back row, hands clasped. She had testified many times in her career, but never felt this heavy. The prosecutor opened the file. 12 victims, he said, voice echoing in the silent room. Total amount stolen, over $12 million. Method, using a mixture of GHB, benzodiazepine, and datura extract to induce high compliance, combined with psychological manipulation and fake hypnosis. A screen lit up. Charts, numbers, photos of vials, all cold, scientific, bearing no trace of witchcraft. Then it was Evelyn's turn to stand. She didn't look at her lawyer. Not at the jury. She looked straight at Sarah. "I didn't kill them," Evelyn said. Her voice low and clear. "I only put them to sleep." The defense lawyer tried to intervene, but Evelyn raised her hand. "I want to tell the truth. All of it." She spoke of Victoria Hale, her great-grandmother. A woman who lived at the end of the 19th century, marginalized by society for being too intelligent, too understanding of men, too skilled at reading their minds. She had no power, Evelyn said. Only knowledge. And she used it. Victoria Hale was hunted, labeled a witch, then vanished. But she left a notebook, formulas, hypnosis techniques, notes on human reactions when will is blurred. I only did what she couldn't, Evelyn continued. Modernize it. She looked at the jury. I didn't choose randomly. I chose men who saw money and land as absolute power. Men who came to this town to buy cheap, pushing locals out. A murmur rose. You robbed them, the prosecutor said coldly. Evelyn smiled very faintly. I took back. And I didn't need force. They gave willingly. Sarah felt a cold anger rise. She remembered her uncle. The empty eyes. The death called an accident. You took away their choice, Sarah stood up, voice trembling but firm. That wasn't willing. Evelyn looked at her one last time. In that moment, Sarah realized the most terrifying thing. Evelyn truly believed she was right. The jury deliberated briefly. The sentence was pronounced, life imprisonment without parole. No one applauded. No one sighed in relief. Outside, the town was divided. Some called Evelyn a modern witch, a terrifying manipulator. Others whispered that she was just a product of a money-worshipping society, a wrong-way avenger. Blackwood Hollow was no longer as peaceful as before. Evelyn Hale was transferred to a federal prison hundreds of miles from the town. In her cell, she refused psychological therapy. Refused press interviews. Only requested to keep one old book, The Will and the Sleeping Mind. The guard said that sometimes, at night, Evelyn sat for a long time, eyes open, not sleeping. As if she didn't need sleep. Blackwood Hollow gradually returned to its old rhythm. Tourists came back. Bars got busier. The museum replaced the hypnosis exhibit with a room on modern psychological crime. But the rumors didn't vanish. People still talked about drinks not to accept. Smiles too perfect. Encounters that blurred memory. Sarah Blackwell left the town on a late autumn afternoon. She drove past Blackwater Lake. The water was calm, reflecting the gray sky. She stopped, got out, breathed in the scent of decaying leaves and cold water. The case was closed. Files stamped complete. But Sarah didn't feel victory. She thought of other cities. Other towns. Other women and men who understood chemistry, psychology, human weakness, and used it as a weapon. How many other witches were out there? Not wearing pointed hats. Not whispering spells. Just mixing the right dose, saying the right words, touching at the right moment. Wind blew through the forest. Yellow leaves fell, swirling lightly on the road. Sarah got in the car, closed the door. In the rearview mirror, Blackwood Hollow grew smaller, then vanished around the curve. But the chill at the back of her neck remained. Darkness, she knew, never truly leaves. It only learns to hide better.